Chapter 1. Emma, don't kid yourself, one of James' buddies sneered. Throwing 10 grand at him isn't gonna make him look twice at you. Yeah, James doesn't care about your money, or you, another one chimed in. I paused for a moment, my hand hovering over the donation box. Then, without a word, I slipped my card back into my pocket. All right, I said, my voice calm and controlled. If that's the case, I won't bother donating. No point in upsetting you all. James came from a poor family, and his mother was seriously ill. The class had organized this fundraiser to help him out. As for me, well, I had more money than I knew what to do with. I was planning to donate a card loaded with $10,000. It would have stood out like a sore thumb among the crumpled bills everyone else was tossing in. Most of the class had been impressed by my generosity. But James' friends? They saw it as an insult, accusing me of flaunting my wealth to humiliate him. Well, fine. If they didn't want my money, I wouldn't force it on them. But then, right on cue, Sarah, James' so-called first love, jumped in. This is a fundraiser for James. You can't just decide not to donate. Sarah was always chirpy and full of energy, the kind of girl who tried to act like she understood James because they came from similar backgrounds. Naturally, she was always hanging around him. I couldn't help but smirk. You were just telling me not to donate a second ago. Now that I'm doing exactly what you wanted, you're upset? Make up your mind. Sarah's face turned red. You did insult him by trying to use your money to win him over. I raised an eyebrow. Right. And now that I'm not donating, I'm no longer insulting him. Unless, of course, you want me to do it again. The room fell silent. Everyone knew me as the girl who relentlessly chased after James, throwing money at him at every opportunity. But today I was doing something different, something no one expected. Sarah, clearly missing the shift in the atmosphere, kept going. Oh, I see. You're worried about embarrassing him in front of everyone by giving him that much money. No problem. You can just give it to him in private later. I glanced over at James, who hadn't said a single word. He was staring off into space, acting like this whole thing had nothing to do with him. Typical. In my last life, he'd done the exact same thing. Stood by and watched as none of this concerned him. I let out a soft, bitter laugh. I'm not worried about embarrassing him. You all said you didn't want the money, so you're not getting it. Honestly, I'd rather give it to a dog. At least a dog knows how to show gratitude. James? He only knew how to wound me with his silence. Chapter 2. James was the golden boy. He had the looks, the brains, and the tragic backstory. He'd clawed his way out of poverty, earning top scores in the city, and was chosen to give the freshman representative speech. I fell for him after just one look. It was like time stopped. But as impressive as his high school grades were, they didn't mean much here, at a prestigious university filled with geniuses. He wasn't at the top of the class anymore, just average. He couldn't qualify for the big scholarships, and the ones he did barely covered his monthly expenses. Even with the poverty grants, he was struggling to make ends meet. Tuition was a nightmare, and living in the city was expensive beyond belief. Most girls, once they found out how broke he was, kept their distance. No one wanted to get involved with a guy who was one bad paycheck away from starving. Except me. I was the idiot who brought him lunch every day, transferred money into his account at the start of each month, and covered his mother's medical bills. When the weather changed, I made sure he had new clothes. Basically, I was bankrolling his entire life. And how did he repay me? By treating me like I didn't exist. Still, when his resume landed at my family's company, I pulled some strings to get him a job. Without my help, he wouldn't have stood a chance of getting hired at Wilson Group. I even proposed to him. Yeah, you heard that right, I proposed. It's rare enough for a woman to propose to a man these days, but doing it when the guy clearly doesn't like you? Well, that's a whole new level of pathetic. But I didn't care. I loved him, and I was willing to be the fool. I told him I'd fund his startup and give him the money to build something of his own. For someone like James who came from nothing, that was too tempting to pass up. So he said yes. We were married for 3 years. First, things weren't so bad. He wasn't as cold to me as he had been before. He even talked to me like a normal person sometimes. And for a while, Sarah wasn't around as much. I started to believe maybe he was coming around. Maybe he was starting to see me, to appreciate everything I'd done for him. I was so incredibly naive. He was just biding his time, waiting for the right moment to strike. He used me, drained me dry, and then set about destroying my family's company. All for Sarah, the woman he'd never stopped loving. The day everything fell apart, Sarah showed up with a smug look on her face, one hand resting on her stomach. "I'm 3 months pregnant," she said, her voice sweet and sickening. "Your family's company is bankrupt, and now that you can't help James anymore, maybe you should just sign those divorce papers and disappear quietly. Oh, and by the way, you might want to rush over to your dad's office. You could still make it in time." She held up her phone, showing me a live stream of my family's company. "Check it out, everyone. That's the CEO of Wilson on the roof. The company's gone under, and now he's threatening to jump. Hey, Mr. Wilson, are you gonna do it or what?" Panic surged through me as I watched the video. The stress of the past few weeks had been unbearable, and now my heart raced uncontrollably. "Emma, honestly, we should thank you," Sarah said, her voice dripping with fake sincerity. "Without you, James wouldn't have been able to take down your family's business so quickly." She laughed, a cruel, mocking sound that echoed in my ears. I'd been working around the clock, thinking I was dealing with a temporary crisis. But it had all been part of James' plan. The sleepless nights, the anxiety, the endless meetings, it was all because of him. Everything went black and I collapsed, the world spinning around me. As I started to lose consciousness, I heard James' voice, calm and gentle. "Sarah, take it easy. You shouldn't overexert yourself." "What about Emma?" she asked, not even pretending to care. "If she doesn't recover, it'll save us the trouble. Let her be." Chapter 3. I truly did pass away. And honestly, I really did regret it. But now I've been given a second chance, and I'll be damned if I make the same mistakes. This time, I'm staying as far away from James as possible. I'll protect my parents and our family business. As for James, without my money to prop him up, I'm curious to see how he'll survive. I figured he'd come running back eventually, but I didn't expect it to happen so soon. The very next day, after the whole donation fiasco, he cornered me outside the classroom. Without hesitation, James held out his hand like he was entitled to something. I barely spared him a glance as I sidestepped, heading toward the door. "Emma, where's my breakfast?" His voice was sharp, like I'd forgotten some unspoken agreement. "Breakfast?" I arched an eyebrow, pretending not to understand. "Sorry, I don't recall signing up to play caretaker." His expression tightened, clearly not used to this version of me. "What's your problem? You think skipping breakfast duty and holding back your donation is going to get my attention?" I let out a small, amused sigh. "You're the one stopping me in my tracks, James. If anyone's trying to get attention here, it's you." His hand dropped to his side, and for a moment, he looked genuinely taken aback. His frustration was palpable. James had always been like this, far too proud for his own good. He'd take my money without hesitation, and then act like he resented me for it. Every time I transferred him funds, he'd throw some snide comment my way, warning me not to get any ideas. Yet, for all his holier-than-thou attitude, he never once refused the money. Not once. And he certainly never offered to pay it back. It was as if he thought this was his due, as I owed him. And his friends? They were no better. They sneered at how I threw money around, but they stuck close to James, enjoying the benefits of my generosity. James, of course, thought they were his loyal buddies. The truth was, they were just in it for the free ride my money provided. Hypocrites, the lot of them. But today, James was going to walk away empty-handed. Soon enough, his little entourage gathered around him like vultures circling a carcass. "Hey James, what's for breakfast today?" one of them asked, glancing at me with a smirk. James shot me a quick look but kept his mouth shut. I used to buy him breakfast every morning, always a variety because I never knew what he liked. He'd pick whatever suited him that day, and his friends would get the leftovers. It was their little routine. But today, they were going to be disappointed. One of the guys, clearly noticing the awkward silence, slammed his hand on a nearby desk. "Emma, first you refused to donate and now you won't even bring James breakfast? What the hell's your problem? You're so selfish." Oh, the audacity. I crossed my arms, my patience wearing thin. "Selfish?" I drawled. "Let me guess, you expect me to keep feeding you all forever? Well, how about this, call me Daddy? and I might consider it." His face flushed an angry red, but he still had the nerve to fire back. "It's just breakfast. You've got so much money, and you're being stingy over a few bucks." I gave him a slow, deliberate once-over. "You know," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm, "the way you're begging, it's giving very street corner vibes. Ever considered a career in panhandling?" That struck a nerve. Finally, James, who had been trying to keep his cool, snapped. His voice was cold, sharp. "Enough. I'll get a scholarship. I don't need your charity." I looked up, genuinely surprised. In all the years I had known James, this was the first time I'd heard him speak with such conviction. I couldn't help it. An unexpected laugh escaped me. His face darkened even more. "What's so funny? You really think I can't do it?" "Oh no," I said, still chuckling. "Good luck with that. I'll be watching." If he could have done it, why hadn't he already? The only reason I'd been bailing him out financially was because he couldn't manage on his own. I thought I was helping him focus, letting him chase his dreams without worrying about basic survival. But even with all my help, he hadn't made any real progress in his studies. He was always just coasting. And now, without my support, well, this was going to be interesting. Chapter 4. I used to send James a monthly allowance, and every month, like clockwork, he'd manage to spend it all. As soon as the money hit his account, his friends would swarm him, pressuring him to treat them to dinner. Sarah, of course, would drop subtle hints about how tight things were for her, and James would hand over some cash or buy her a gift. Looking back, I must have been a walking charity case, single-handedly bankrolling an entire group of freeloaders. I wasn't even married yet, and I was already supporting a family. But this month, I didn't send a dime. James' mother was seriously ill, and the donations we'd collected barely scratched the surface of what was needed. Even if James threw his entire allowance into covering her bills, it wouldn't be enough. When my driver picked me up that morning, he asked out of habit, "Miss, are we going to the hospital?" I used to visit James' mother every weekend. Paying her medical bills was just part of the routine. But today I shook my head. "No, take me home. And from now on, you don't need to ask. We're not going there anymore." The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror, surprise flickering across his face before he quickly composed himself. He'd gotten so used to driving straight to the hospital that asking had become a formality. Well, not anymore. As soon as I got home, my phone rang. It was the hospital. "Miss Wilson, this month's medical bill hasn't been paid yet." Of course they called me. I was the one listed as the emergency contact. "Call James," I said flatly. "I'm not paying his bills anymore." I hung up just as my dad walked into the room, his voice full of surprise and delight. "Emma, you're home early." Instantly, my throat tightened, and I felt tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. In my last life, my father had exhausted himself. He was always so strong, raising me by himself and steering Wilson Group through crisis after crisis. But in the end, when everything came crashing down, he'd chosen to jump. I knew he didn't want to be a burden anymore. He must have sensed something was wrong because he rushed over, worry written all over his face. "What's wrong? Did someone upset you? Was it that boy, James? I'll deal with him." I quickly stepped in, stopping him. "No one can upset me anymore. And I'm done with him. He's out of my life for good." He stared at me for a moment, and then burst into laughter. "Finally, you've come to your senses. I always knew my girl was smart. Just a matter of time before you saw him for what he really is." He'd always known James wasn't good enough for me. He'd tried to warn me, but I'd been too infatuated, too stubborn to listen. He did his best to protect me, even when I refused to see the truth. But in the end, his efforts couldn't stop the disaster that followed. I took a deep breath, pushing the past out of my mind. "Dad, I've been seeing all those health tips your friends post online. They're right, you need to take better care of yourself. Tomorrow we're going to the hospital for a full checkup." His face softened and he smiled. "Of course. If my daughter says so, I can't refuse." When we arrived at the hospital for his checkup, I went to the counter to pay, and that's when I saw James and Sarah nearby, pleading with the doctor. They were begging for more time, asking to delay the payments so treatment could continue. I ignored them and stepped up to the counter. But of course Sarah spotted me right away. "Doctor, the person paying is here," she called out excitedly, pointing in my direction. "Now you can start the treatment, right?" I rolled my eyes. Did she really still not get it? After everything I'd said, she still thought I was going to swoop in and save them? Without acknowledging her, I paid for my father's checkup. The doctor glanced at the system and shook his head. "No payment's been made for the treatment," he said, annoyed. "Stop wasting my time and figure out how to raise the money. I've got other patients to see." I turned to leave, but Sarah grabbed my arm. "Didn't you just pay?" I nodded, unfazed. "Yeah, I did." "Then why is the doctor saying you didn't?" I gave her a look of mock confusion. "What does James' mom's doctor have to do with me?" I paused, pretending to suddenly realize. "Oh, you thought I was going to pay for her again? That's cute. Sorry to disappoint, but I'm not a charity." James, who had been standing quietly nearby, finally spoke, his voice tight with frustration. "You always paid before. Now you're just done? What about my mother?" I shrugged. "She's your mother, James, not mine. How you handle it is up to you." His jaw clenched, and for a moment, it looked like he was struggling to keep his temper in check. "If you're so desperate to be with me, fine, pay the bill and I'll think about making you my girlfriend. And my mom will be your mom." I took a step back, staring at him like he'd lost his mind. "You've got this all wrong. My mother passed away years ago. Are you trying to replace her with yours?" Sarah gasped, her voice shrill. "Emma, how could you say something so awful? Do you want something terrible to happen to James' mother?" I raised my hands in mock surrender. "Whoa, I never said that. Those are your words. If you're so eager to save her, why don't you pay the bill? Anyway, I've got more important things to do. I'll be on my way." It wasn't that I didn't care. But every time I visited James' mother, she'd flash me that same fake smile, treating me like a living, breathing ATM. She never saw me as anything more than a source of money. Even when James and I were married in my last life, she constantly found ways to siphon money from him, always moving it into her own account. This time, I wasn't going to save her again. Once my father's checkup was done, I made sure to write down everything the doctor said. This time around, I was going to keep him healthy. Not just that, I was going to protect him and the company. In this life, nothing would bring us down. Chapter 5. James had picked up multiple jobs and things had changed. He wasn't treating his buddies to meals anymore, and Sarah wasn't getting any of his money either. In fact, he'd even started asking them to pay him back. He kept track of every cent, holding them accountable for what they owed him. Unsurprisingly, his so-called friends scattered the moment he asked for money. The only one still hanging around was Sarah. She probably thought I was just throwing a fit, that I'd eventually come crawling back and keep covering James' bills. She had it completely wrong. One day in class, she came up to me, all smug and self-assured. "I get it. You're jealous because of me. But don't worry. There's nothing going on between me and James. You can still support him. He's really struggling right now. If you give him, say, 100,000, he'd totally be with you." 100,000? I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity. "You've got some nerve. Wasn't it James who said he didn't need my charity? And what makes you think you're in any position to ask me for money? Do you really think I'd throw that kind of cash at someone like him?" I gave her a once-over and then added, voice dripping with disdain. "Someone who's all pride and no talent?" Out of the corner of my eye, I saw James walking toward us, his steps faltering as he overheard our conversation. His face was pale, exhaustion etched into every line. He clenched his fists, trying to maintain his composure. His voice, however, betrayed him, low, humiliated, and defeated. "Emma, you win. I'll be with you. Just pay for my mom's medical bills." I couldn't help but scoff. "Is this really what you've been reduced to? Did I ever say I wanted to be with you?" He took a shaky breath, his eyes closing as if he needed to steel himself for what came next. "You liked me. I knew that. Now, I'm agreeing to be with you. Isn't that what you wanted? You've been holding back money to force me into this, haven't you? Well, congratulations. You got what you wanted. Are you happy now?" My expression hardened and I spoke slowly, making sure every word hit home. "Let me make something clear, James. I don't like you anymore. You're broke and you're a nobody. What makes you think I'd still have any interest in you?" Stop clinging to me and begging for money. Got it? James visibly flinched, his face going ashen. That's not possible. Even if you don't like me anymore, can't you at least help me one last time? I crossed my arms, my patience wearing thin. I gave you more than enough money to cover those hospital bills. You're the one who blew it. You're the one who handed it out to everyone else. If you're short on money now, that's your problem. Go ask the people you gave it to. His face drained of all color as my words sunk in. Desperation clouded his eyes, and he reached out to grab me. Emma! I stepped back, his hand catching nothing but air. And then just like that, he crumpled to the ground. For a second, panic surged through me. Memories of my past life flashed before my eyes. I remembered how I had collapsed in front of him just like this. James! Emma, you monster! You've made him faint from the stress. Sarah shrieked, rushing over to where James lay. I stared down at him. His breathing was steady. He was still very much alive. He just fainted. Pathetic. I nudged him with my foot. Hey, get up. He didn't move. By now, a crowd of our classmates had gathered around, murmuring to one another. But not a single one of them stepped forward to help. I scanned the faces in the crowd, landing on the guys who used to hang around James all the time. I pointed at them. You guys. You were all happy to freeload off him. Now it's time to return the favor. Take him to the nurse's office. Why should we? You're the one who made him pass out. One of them shot back. I let out a cold laugh. And you're the ones who drained his wallet dry. He's been exhausting himself to meet your demands. If you don't want me to call the cops and have them help sort out who owes what, I suggest you get moving. Every penny he gave you? It was my money. I have every right to get it back. That shut them up. Grumbling under their breaths, they hauled James up and dragged him out of the room. As they left, Sarah shot me a venomous look brimming with resentment. What was she so bitter about? Chapter 6. Then it hit me. Sarah had always been the one stirring the pot, driving a wedge between me and James. Whenever I wore something new, she'd always find some way to make a snide comment. Emma's so lucky, born into a rich family. She can wear something different every day. We have to scrimp and save just to get by. Isn't that right, James? When I carried a new bag, she'd sigh dramatically. Wow, isn't that a luxury brand? James, have you ever even seen one of those before? I haven't. Emma's just on a whole different level. Even if I ordered something as simple as a Starbucks coffee, she'd be quick to remark, that drink is expensive, right? I've never had something so expensive. You probably wouldn't even touch the cheap stuff James and I drink, huh? I tried to defend myself, but James never listened. He'd just shoot me a look full of resentment, convinced I was rubbing my wealth in his face. And Sarah? She just smirked, satisfied. It didn't matter that I had everything else. I didn't have James, and Sarah made sure I knew it. She clung to him, flaunting their closeness as if she'd won some kind of prize. But now I understood. Her smugness had nothing to do with James. She was jealous. Jealous of my family, my wealth, my life. She wanted what I had, and the easiest way to get it was through James. She loved to flaunt the gifts James gave her, knowing full well they were bought with my money. I still remember the watch she wore, one I had given to James as a gift, and he just handed it over to her. She played innocent, of course. Oh, this? Isn't this the watch you gave James? He didn't like it, so he gave it to me. You don't mind, do you? I could give it back, but I figured you wouldn't want it now that I've worn it. James would stand there, glaring at me, daring me to say something. I couldn't. I knew that no matter what I said, I'd be in the wrong. In front of James, I had no pride left. I barely ever gave gifts to anyone, and yet he had no problem passing mine off to someone else. Then it hit me. I hadn't bought anything for myself in ages. All my money had gone to pay for his mother's hospital bills. Chapter 7. While James lay in the infirmary, I went shopping. I needed to celebrate my escape from misery, and there was no better way than shopping. But I didn't expect to see Sarah. She should have been at the infirmary taking care of James. I followed her quietly, watching her enter a luxury watch store. Blushing, she asked the sales clerk to return an item. I stood at the entrance, watching her get rejected. She had no receipt. Whenever I bought something for James, I removed the tags and receipts to avoid hurting his pride. I thought hiding the price would make him more comfortable. Sarah, embarrassed, turned around and saw me. I leaned against the door frame watching her. She flushed red. "You're here to laugh at me, aren't you?" I nodded honestly. She got angrier. "It's because you stopped giving James money that I have to return his gifts. Is it really for James? Or is it because you're broke and need money?" I glanced at the nearby escalator. She quickly denied. "What are you talking about? I don't need money." "Then why come when he's sick?" Sarah was at a loss for words, then admitted. "Since you already know, why ask?" "Yes, I hate you. I approached James to spite you and make money off him. It's all your money anyway. I took your man and spent your money." Satisfied, I smiled without responding. She got more agitated. "You're rich. So what? James doesn't like you. His mom doesn't like you. She wants me to be her daughter-in-law. James is poor, but only you are dumb enough to throw money at him, and I benefited from it." "Shut up." James stormed in, face livid. I had noticed him earlier, waiting for him to hear Sarah's heartfelt confession, hoping it would be a grand declaration of love. But instead he confronted Sarah, not me. "Stop saying that. You've always tried to drive a wedge between us. I was wrong about you." Sarah, panicked, clung to his arm. "Those were just angry words. I only said them to upset Emma. I don't really despise you." I quietly watched the drama unfold. Sarah, losing the only thing she could claim, desperately tried to salvage the situation. James, realizing the truth, looked at her with disgust. What a joke. While they argued, I slipped away unnoticed. Chapter 8. James' desperate plea reminded me to stop being lenient. I used to forego scholarship applications, allowing James to barely secure the last spot. I also dragged him into competitions, where he contributed little but shared the awards. I reapplied for scholarships and canceled team competitions, opting for solo entries. I called my assistant, instructing them to follow protocol when awarding corporate scholarships, excluding James and Sarah. Lynn's group offered the highest scholarships. James and Sarah didn't qualify. I had the assistant make exceptions for them before, for James' sake. Days later, the scholarship list was posted. Sarah, finding neither her nor James' names, confronted me. "Emma, how could you remove our names? Does Lynn's group revolve around you? Doesn't it?" I smirked. "You never qualified. Without me, you wouldn't have made the list. What about the scholarship? Why isn't James on it?" I shrugged. "Poor grades, not my fault. You're rich. Why compete for scholarship funds?" Classmates gathered, whispering. I laughed. "Who did I rob? Speak up, did I take anyone's spot?" A classmate raised her hand. "No, I'm not good enough. Even if you didn't apply, I wouldn't qualify. I'm in the top 3. No one can edge me out. Fair competition. Stop this moral coercion. We're civilized people." James entered. Sarah, seeing a savior, rushed to defend him. "James, Emma took your scholarship and aid. She's so selfish and cruel, knowing you need the money for your mom's treatment." James pushed her away coldly. "This has nothing to do with you. Emma isn't selfish or cruel. I didn't meet the requirements. You're the one causing trouble." Sarah, shocked, stared at him. "What? I'm helping you. Didn't you say you needed the scholarship?" James faced me. Sarah was out of line. "I'm sorry." Sarah, biting her lip, glared at me with hatred. A chill ran down my spine, sensing something ominous. Chapter 9. James asked me to meet him by the lake. I didn't want to go, but he said it would be the last time he'd bother me. I arrived to find him staring at the water. "Emma, I had a dream. In it, you were different. You donated, supported me, married me." He looked at me, testing. When he first claimed to like me, I felt something was off. His public defense of me was even stranger. His probing now confirmed my suspicion. I continued. "And then I died, right? You killed me." James had also been reborn. He dropped his facade, showing the poise of someone who had climbed the corporate ladder, yet he was visibly anxious. I regretted it. Regretted not saving you. My insecurities made me resent you, fueled by Sarah's provocations. I thought she was my true love, but after marrying her, I realized she only wanted my money. She never loved me. Only you did. I replied coldly. That doesn't matter anymore. There's no love left. James' eyes reddened. Can't you give me another chance? I died too. Sarah pushed me off a cliff, then claimed it was an accident and inherited everything. We're even. I scoffed. You killed me, not the other way around. How can we be even? He pleaded. Then kill me. Emma, let's start over. I'll treat you better than Sarah, 100 times better. I truly regret it. Only after dying did I realize your worth. Disgusted, I asked, how thick-skinned are you to say that? Are you looking for an easy life? You can hit me, scold me, it's all deserved. Just don't abandon me. James looked like a pitiful abandoned dog. Turns out my dream was true. If you're both back, let's die together. A shrill, venomous voice interrupted. Sarah rushed over, pushing me towards the lake. There were no barriers, and neither James nor I could swim. James, instead of saving himself, pushed me aside and pulled Sarah into the water. Sarah struggled while James, with a crazed grin, asked, "Will you forgive me now?" Insane. I grabbed a nearby life ring, throwing it to them, and called campus security. Chapter 10. Both were hospitalized. The lakeside surveillance clearly showed Sarah pushing me, while James grabbing her was deemed a reflexive self-preservation act. Sarah, upon waking, was detained. She knew neither James nor I could swim yet pushed us into the lake, amounting to attempted murder. Though she had come between James and me for years, I kindly visited her. She looked terrible, hair cut short, face sallow, lacking her once vibrant energy that had attracted James. I pondered how she had managed to stay by James' side for so long. Maybe it was their shared hardships, her cheerfulness in adversity acting like a beacon for him. Or perhaps his inferiority complex made him resentful towards me, overshadowing any genuine feelings. But none of that mattered now. Sarah glared at me. Too bad I didn't kill you. You have everything, and now even James. Are you happy? Laughing at my failure like a clown. I couldn't help but laugh. No need to imagine it. I'm here, laughing at you to your face. Sarah, enraged, banged on the window, desperate to attack me. But she was confined. No matter how she raged, she couldn't touch me. Satisfied, I turned away. James, who had wronged me in our past lives, had to pay for his sins. I no longer supported him, nor did I allow Lynn's group's affiliates to hire him. If he had the ability, he could win scholarships on merit. But he was bound to fail. I not only studied hard myself but also tutored classmates around his level, ensuring he slipped further behind. James, silently bearing it, dared not complain, only looking at me with begging eyes, which disgusted me. After graduation, he applied to Lynn's group. But Lynn's group would never hire him. Without my prompting, Dad had already declared, "We don't hire people with bad character." James, struggling to find a job, worked part-time, barely scraping by. He couldn't pay his mother's medical bills, and they were evicted from the hospital, living in a damp basement. How long she would last, I didn't care. As long as his life was miserable. Chapter 11. Two compatible people with similar backgrounds and values. Following Dad's advice, I got along well with his old friend's son. We shared interests, respected each other, supported each other in life, and matched each other in work. I didn't need to please him constantly, nor would he maliciously misinterpret my actions. When we entered a fine dining restaurant, we saw James working as a part-time server. He approached our table, looking uneasy yet hopeful. "Emma, this is..." I didn't hesitate to shatter his delusion. "My boyfriend, Adam." Adam knew my history with James. When I asked if he minded, he said he would be the last person I cared about so deeply, the one who cherished me, unlike the one who had missed his chance. Adam, exuding confidence, smiled. "Nice to meet you. I'm Adam, Emma's boyfriend and fiancé. We're getting married next month. If you're free, you're welcome to join us and witness our special moment." He held my hand possessively, as if protecting his claim. I reassured him with a glance. Though he invited James, he didn't actually hand over an invitation, clearly unwilling. I didn't expose him, focusing on the menu. "We've ordered. You can leave now." James, humiliated, mumbled, "I really have no chance, do I?" Ignoring him, I discussed our date plans with Adam. James turned and left. I knew he'd never bother me again. Chapter 12. I'm James. Seeing the proud and vibrant Emma collapse in front of me, I felt a twisted satisfaction. Look at you, no matter how rich you were, it all ended up with me. I watched her weak breathing until it ceased. My heart pounded with mixed emotions, guilt, anxiety, and something I couldn't define. I forced these feelings aside, focusing on my business and caring for Sarah. But I wasn't entirely focused. Returning home, I often heard Emma's laughter saying, "James, come here, I made your favorite dish. Try it." During social events, I seemed to hear Emma's gentle reminder in my ear, "James, don't drink so much. Your stomach will hurt." The most unsettling moment was seeing Sarah with a young man, laughing and chatting as she used to with me. I knew exactly what it meant. Sarah suggested we go hiking. She said it would strengthen our bond. I thought she was trying to mend things between us and felt touched. But at the cliff's edge, when I wasn't paying attention, she pushed me off. I died and my spirit lingered, watching Sarah's crocodile tears at my funeral, and her excitement as she counted my assets. Soon she brought that young man home. The tables had turned. Once I brought Sarah into my life. Now she brought someone else into the life I had built. Before my soul dissipated, I remembered Emma's kindness. I should have loved her but was blinded by insecurities and Sarah's manipulations. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in college. I immediately got out of bed and went to find Emma. Thankfully, it wasn't too late. But something was wrong. This Emma was different. She no longer pampered me and showed no affection. I couldn't act recklessly anymore. She even suppressed me at every turn. I knew she was avenging her past, and I deserved it. Let me atone for my sins. The next time we met was when she and her fiancé were out on a date. As much as I hated to admit it, her fiancé was indeed better than me in every way, making me unable to feel jealous. I could only wish them happiness. And as for me, I would spend my life rotting in the shadows as she wished.